Step into love like you've never been hurt before. Step into trust like you've never been burned before.
Hello and welcome to Braveheart Conversations,
where we learn the art of love through brave and compassionate conversations. I am Jillian Landis.
and I'm Marie Wallace.
And we are your hosts today. Hello everyone and welcome to Braveheart Conversations. This is Jillian Landis and I'm here today with
Marie Wallace. Hello.
And we are going to be talking today about trust. Trust in relationships, trust as in self-trust, and trusting the universe. Trust just keeps coming up for me and is a really yummy topic.
I was just going to say juicy, so we're on the same
metaphor. Yeah, and sometimes it's something that we can just take for granted and don't end up talking about it a whole lot, but I find it to be very foundational when we're talking about relationships. Often in coaching, people will have issues with connecting or intimacy. And it almost always goes back to a foundational trust issue where trust has been broken, and then there's not really that ability to have vulnerability and connection.
Exactly.
And then for me, lately I have certainly just felt like this kind of inner conflict of, when do I trust myself or am I in fear of whatever choices I'm going to make next? Whether that be a relationship or even boundary setting has been big for me. Like trusting myself to set boundaries that are appropriate and honorable for me. Let's start off with trust in the context of a relationship. And Marie, you probably have a lot to share in that arena. How do you feel with you and Joe? How do you feel trust has been instrumental in building your relationship?
Well, I think that for us, the trust has been that they're going back to our previous podcast on secrets. The trust that there aren't secrets allows me to feel freedom in the relationship and be able to deepen and go further in the relationship, because I do feel that there are no surprises coming up, and I feel because we have built that relationship along the lines that the trust allows me the freedom to make choices that are more from intuition, because I know he trusts me too. And if there is that's an interesting thing. I know that if I have a doubt, that I can talk to him about it,
safe.
And it's safe to talk to him about it, and that we can either agree to disagree on whatever this topic is, or we can agree on how to follow through with whatever that is. And it could be about my personal passions or our group or our partnership activities. Group sounded weird for a second there. Or our partnership activities whatever we want to pursue, we can navigate in that relationship. And it helps in communication a lot if I can trust what's being said. When he says that it's this way and he feels this way, I can feel that trust and know, okay, that I'm making a decision out of knowing what he wants and needs and what I want and need, and he's forthcoming.
He's being honest.
He's being honest.
Yeah, I think that you've touched on a couple of really key things, because it's really important to pay attention. If you have, something that you really want to discuss and you're scared to talk to your partner about it because they have responded negatively, like that's something to kind of pay attention to what the pattern is. Is it safe to really share my feelings? Is that going to be accepted? Or am I going to be manipulated to, try to make me feel something else?
Or change your answer?
Change my mind, yeah. So it's super key to feel safe enough to share honestly. When I can share honestly, even if you're going to be disappointed in me.
Yeah.
Even if you're not going to like what I have to say, but you're going to accept it, and you're going to be, okay, that's, I still love you the way that you are.
Right.
I don't maybe like this answer, but I accept that this is who you are and how you feel.
And this is the path you're on.
There's incredible safety in that. And to have a relationship with that kind of bandwidth is really key. One thing I find is that a lot of couples will come to me and they'll say, oh yeah, we're fine with, I trust her with other guys, or, I know she's not going to cheat on me. And that's like everybody's perception of trust, right? They're going to be loyal to me, which is part of it, sure. I will generally point back to Brene Brown's Anatomy of Trust. I absolutely love it. So her Anatomy of Trust is an acronym, BRAVING.
Right.
And so the B stands for boundaries, which is I know what I want, and you know what you want, and we both are respecting that. Boundaries. And then R is reliability. So I do what I say I'm going to do. This is so key because I find this so often erodes relationships. Well, even, boundaries.
Sure.
People don't often speak what they want and need. They're waiting for their partner just to know.
Yeah.
And then reliability. How often do we make commitments or even just infer that we're going to do something and then we don't follow through? And this erodes a lot of trust in a relationship. This also happens when someone says yes to something that they really mean no to. They're afraid of disappointing their partner, so they say yes. But then what ultimately ends up happening is deep down, if our intuition, if our soul doesn't want to do something, we don't do it.
Yep.
So we procrastinate or we don't follow through in our word. It really, really damages trust. So being able to be honest with your yeses and nos is like super important. It's that reliability piece. Do I follow through on what I say I'm going to do? A is accountability.
Right.
Which is when I make a mistake, I own it and I make amends. And V is vault. It's confidentiality. Whatever is shared in this relationship, I don't share all this ick that happens with other people. I might have 1 or 2 friends that are coaches or someone that I can share neutrally that can help me work on me.
And we've talked about that in previous conversations too. It's just so important to have those people that are neutral in our lives that can give us a perception without having an emotion involved in it. And
right.
It allows us to see things from another perspective.
And I will make the differentiation too in this whole vault area. Confidentiality is very different than secrecy. So we talked about keeping secrets before, and there's certainly information that you need to be able to share and get help for.
Sure.
If there are things happening in your world that you're feeling unsafe or abused, or there's something happening, you get to share that. Confidentiality is different. This is, everybody has their shadow side. It's so vulnerable for me to share my shadow side with somebody, right? To open myself up. And it's very, it feels like a betrayal if then that really special part of me that I showed someone is then shared with someone else. So that confidentiality is really important.
And we talked about that in a previous one where it's imperative that we have someone that holds our relationship in a sacred place.
Yes.
So that, not that, like you said, getting help for the things that we need or being able to vent when we need without, like you said, divulging, or we can say the things that we need to say and get the help we need without tearing someone down.
Right. And for me, this is important where I have a couple of people, less than one hand, a couple of people that I know, no matter who the person is, no matter what the scenario is, I can go to them and they are not going to shit talk that person. They are not going to tell me all the ways that they're an asshole and they should change. And that's not what the conversation is going to be. They are going to be solution focused with me on how I can change and how I can respond to the situation differently. That's so key. The best mentors and coaches that I've had in my life, they hold such a neutral space that even in the midst of really pretty extreme behavior that I was facing, they still held a space of love for that person.
It's sacred. It's so special.
Mm-hmm. And those are the people that I turn to always for support. That's not for everyone. That's an earned role. That is not appropriate for everyone to have. Also involved, it's important that not only am I not sharing our relationship and, you know, some of the more sensitive areas that I maybe don't have permission for, but also am I gossiping about other people? This also erodes trust. So if I have a pattern of bringing home everything, you know, all my complaints about other people, and I'm sharing this in this relationship, this is also eroding trust, because we intuitively know if you're talking shit about somebody else, you are likely going to be talking about me. It's a pattern in you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, so that's something that we get to be aware of as well in that whole vault area, is that I don't share things about our relationship, and I don't share other people's shit in our relationship. The next one is I, which is integrity. And this means that I choose what's right over what's fun, fast, or easy. This is also key, because if we're watching our partner make decisions that are shady, right? Maybe it's tax evasion. Maybe it's billing hours that weren't actually done, or, you know, screwing a client over, or some, you know, these sorts of things. If we're watching them, definitely erodes trust. Because if I watch you
cut corners
and be unethical with other people, there's absolutely no reason for me to think that you're gonna treat me any differently.
There's a sign at YMCA that talks about that, cutting corners, because if you're willing to cut corners in those, you're going to cut corners, like you said, what's fast or easy, or
it's a character trait.
It's a character trait
at that point. Yeah, if you're watching these behavioral patterns, it's character. This is your character that's showing, and it's not just in one area that you're doing this. You're going to be doing this in every area, because it's become part of your shadow and who you are. The next one is N, which is non-judgment, which just stands for being able to ask for help without judgment. So each partner is open and allowing of someone needing help and asking for help. Very key, that you're not feeling criticized for needing help.
Well, that shuts people down right away. There's no room for grow or moving, or judgment just shuts the door before anything positive can even come from. Yeah.
And then the last one is very key as well. G, which is generous assumptions, that I believe the best of you. I assume the best. And this hangs people up all the time as well. You know, who are you getting a call from? Right? Can I see your phone? I mean, and this feels icky on both sides, right? Because then if you're the person with the phone and you're like, you know, but I've been so trustworthy, like, how come you're accusing me? It can feel super icky to be on the defensive. So to have that level of trust with a partner, that you're always assuming, you know, they're not here right now. It's probably because they're late, they're stuck in traffic. Not, oh man, you know, they just don't care about me. You know, this is the stuff we do all the time.
Well, in NLP, one of the best practices, and that's what NLP does, is the best practice is to assume best intentions, which is the same as the general assumptions. And that makes my world a lot happier.
It does.
It's because then I'm seeing the best in people, and until that trust is broken, or which will sometimes, but if I assume best intentions of people, then I'm not dwelling in something that's gonna, like you said, be icky in my world.
Yeah.
Can you imagine just living in that moment every day of and thinking that there's a secret or that there's these things going on, and it's just an icky way to live.
It is. And it's an icky feeling not to feel trusted.
Right.
Really icky feeling, especially, if you do have really high levels of integrity and you know that you've been...
And someone's questioning.
Yeah, it's an icky feeling. It's nice to feel trusted. So those are all the elements of trust, and that is delicate, right? And it takes some effort to keep that clean and to rebuild trust. When it's broken, because it will be broken. We aren't perfect, so
we're human.
We are gonna, commit to something and then not do it,
right.
Or we are going to sometimes be suspicious of our partner instead of having
sometimes break
assumptions.
a boundary we didn't mean to.
Yeah, or not speak up about a boundary. Yeah, we do those things, but I very much encourage any of my coaching clients to do regular check-ins. I think it's very important as a couple. It's funny because we would never run a business without having business meetings.
Exactly. I mean, that's how you build that. People think that it just automatically happens, but it's built over time. That trust and that relationship. Because a lot of people go, oh, it's so easy for you and Joe. Well, it is a lot easier. We've had 24 years of practice.
Yeah.
24 years of these business meetings. We call them coffee chats, but we take intentional time every week. Every week we meet together. We met this morning for coffee to kind of check back in. And so it is very intentional what we're doing. It's not something that just happens overnight. And,
right.
It's built through trust and time and intentional time. I think intentional time is a very important word there. And I love knowing all those elements they're built and they're in place. And so when an issue comes up, you can go, this is the area that I'm feeling not comfortable or maybe a little insecure, because insecurity comes up too.
Definitely.
When you in our relationship, a lot of times either our work or our situations keep us busy, and not having that check-in time. You're going, you make up stories about what's going on, and you all of a sudden you're going, wait a minute. This is what I'm telling myself, but I know it's not true. Could you kind of enlighten me? And I'm feeling insecure about this piece. Could you, just having that space to talk about it.
And I encourage people to literally have an agenda, and that feels stiff, but no, it's really a safe place. If you can have an agenda where I always have the Brene Brown's Braving, check in on all those trust things. How are we doing? Are we following through on our word? Are we, making amends? All the stuff. And being honest about how we're really feeling in that arena. And then, finances are almost always on that list, because people struggle with communicating about finances. But if it's on an agenda and you're meeting once a week, you just have to talk about it. And it's, nobody has to bring up the big, bad, scary topic. It's just on the agenda, which just makes it easier.
We did that with family meetings. So we did that as a family. And at first everybody hated family meetings. And they're like, oh, why are you making us do this? But having the agenda, knowing that there was room on the agenda for people to have a safe space to speak about something that was on their mind. So we even had a protocol of how the meeting was run. So we had time for check-in for each member of the family, so they could have their 2 minutes to speak about whatever they needed to speak about. And someone else and their job was just to listen, because sometimes we don't feel heard. But anyway, having that agenda and family meeting works in all relationships. I know a girl who did it with her roommate. They had weekly check-ins with their roommates. And so I think having that time set aside to do that check-in, to say how are you feeling, because sometimes we might be holding it in for no reason at all, and the other person has not a clue, and that avoids the passive aggressiveness. It avoids miscommunication big time. And it just continually builds trust. So I'm glad you brought that up. And it's so important to have the agenda because that feels safe.
It does. Yeah. It takes it into a neutral space instead of that heavy feeling of how do I address this, or, I really don't want to bring this up, or how are they going to think if I do bring this up, then they're going to know, there's just all this stuff.
And it's not a surprise for everyone else.
No,
they know it's going to be talked about.
Yep. And then, you add in whatever other topics are generally contentious topics. And when you
You'll have those reliable ones.
Yeah, and when you just make them normal things to talk about, it's funny how that ends up being, it just ends up being a normal thing, and so it takes all of this ickiness out of it. It's no longer this big bad conflict. And I think it kind of builds our conflict resiliency.
Agreed.
Some of us are really scared of conflict, so if that just becomes a normal thing, then we just start to kind of build those muscles and make that.
Well, and when someone's not going to freak out when you bring something up, right? You've built that safety and that trust in, and over time you've seen, yes, I brought up some really difficult things, and they didn't freak out, and they didn't, drop the ball, and they were willing to face it. 'Cause sometimes we have to be really courageous.
Yep.
Both of us, or all of us involved in the situation.
Yep.
So as you build that trust up over time, you can go, okay, so that went pretty well, and I have this issue that seems to be even bigger. And like you said, over time, you can go, okay, and that builds a relationship that's phenomenal.
Yeah.
That you can go spiritual.
Yeah.
You can go deep. Over time. It's really beautiful.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. So, another big issue that comes up for me is that's the relationship trust building, but there's also self-trust, which has been a big thing coming up for me lately that I've been really aware of. And I think this can be scary for people just coming out of relationships. I hear this a lot. I'm scared of my next choice. I'm scared of the next person that I'm going to choose. I have a broken picker, or...
you choose for me because I'm obviously bad at it.
Yeah, and there's this whole idea of mistrust that I'm going to choose what's honorable for me. And the space that I've gotten to come to recently is trusting that I don't need to fear any relationships or any situations or any people or whatever. I don't need to fear any of those situations because I have the skills and the ability and the what's the word I'm looking for? The commitment to my own intuition and well-being, that no matter what the person or the situation is, I will choose to honor me. And so you're really untouchable in that space.
Well, and each relationship is a moment to reveal something inside of us.
Yes.
To help us grow and learn and go to the next level, if that's the way we're going to use that term. But I trust that each relationship is given to me or in my space for a reason. It
and
could
sometimes
be to look at something I haven't wanted to look at for a while.
Definitely.
Which is what the shadow is. Somebody asked me what that. It's just those things that we kind of put off to the side, don't want to put in the light because we're afraid.
It's what we suppress.
Yeah, what we suppress. And I like that term better. But yeah, it's not a surprise. It's just okay, this is an opportunity for me to grow and learn and to be a better version of myself. Or I don't know, better version of, we all have these great versions of ourselves, but just to see and grow and be more accepting of all sides of myself.
Yes. Yeah. Self-acceptance is really huge. I think self-acceptance comes a little before self-trust. So self-trust for me is this, there's this conflict internally of this fear, oh, but you're going to make these mistakes again. And that was painful. And we don't want to do that again. And so then, like, how do I calculate?
Let's not have another relationship.
Right. But then there's this other side that's like, no, you are a badass for, like, going through all these relationships or work situations or family conflicts or friend conflict. I mean, any of these situations, like, you've learned the skills and you've proven you stand up for yourself and you leave relationships that don't honor you. So you don't need to mistrust yourself. You get to trust that that whatever situation is manifested to you, yes, you'll get to practice. Sometimes it is practicing using your voice.
Yes.
It's practicing setting the boundaries. Sometimes it's practicing kicking people out of your space again. And all of that gets
and
to be okay.
trusting those were good choices, however it happens.
Yeah. And an element of this that's really huge for me is making peace with my past. That I get to look at all of the places I've been, all of the relationships and work and, you know, career choices and business choices and friend choices, all of these things I get to go back and look at and not have shame and judgment towards them, but to realize, like, every single choice that was made was exactly the choice that I needed to make.
Right.
It was exactly what my soul wanted in order to expand and grow. That was what my soul was here to do, was to master whatever those things gave me. You know, whether it was mastering boundaries or it was mastering how to detach with love, you know, not to pick up somebody else's crisis, how to love someone without enabling them and helping them.
Exactly.
How to mind my own business, how to focus on my own behavior and not somebody else's. Like, these are the things that I've gotten to master through the choices that I've made. Because those triggers were so huge in my face all the time that I got to master them. And without those situations, I would not have had those opportunities. So I get to look back at all of those choices with love. Because so many times the narrative that we tell ourselves, and I hear this all the time with clients, the narrative is, why did I choose that? And I wasted time. And if I hadn't, you know, if I hadn't
I hear
had
that a lot.
relationship,
I wasted my time.
I wasted time. No, you didn't waste time. Like, that was all about mastery. And you got to remember, like, redirect your mind, reframe to, why are you here?
Right.
You aren't here to just have a great time with ease. I mean, that's going to be part of it.
Why not?
But you're here for growth. You're here for expansion and learning. So when you can see the life purpose as that instead of comfort, then it all makes so much more sense. And it all, it does allow me to trust myself, because when the intention is growth, then I can look back and go, wow, my soul was really smart. It was really wise. Because it chose all the things that I needed. It went to the right graduate school.
Exactly. Sometimes we don't want to go to graduate school. I want to circle just back to the self-trust part, because when you can trust all those, that all the relationships come into your life that were meant to, but when you can trust yourself, you can also trust the fact that you're going to have that relationship you so desire. Because you have lived in integrity, you have lived and honored yourself. You can trust that you will find that person that is willing to go there with you and to be there for you, because you won't settle for less.
Right.
And I think that is still part of your self-mastery, but that self-trust to go, you know what? I have honored myself all along the way. I know without a shadow of a doubt. Don't know when, don't know how, don't need to know when or how. I just know. I mean, I remember that feeling of going, I know I'm going to have this relationship of a lifetime. I knew it without a doubt, because I had done the work and I was true and honorable to myself. And I did we did the work. We were both willing to face what we needed to. But I'm just saying, I just wanted to go back to that self-trust. I know that relationship will come in my life. Mm-hmm. The one that I've been so desiring.
Well, the thing is, when you can trust yourself to let go of anything and everything that is not honorable to you, then
what's left?
You will always have the space. You will create the space for the person that does. What often happens, and the reason why we create mistrust of ourselves, is because we get into these relationships that are not honoring, and instead of being able to release them with love quickly, we hold on to them, we try to make them different, we justify why we're there, we hang on years past the expiration date, and we haven't honored ourselves. And so then we mistrust that we're going to honor ourselves in the future.
On the next relation, yep.
Yeah, and so it really is like trusting that I'm going to have the courage always. Trusting that I'm going to have the courage to let things go. Because that is hard. It's so hard.
Or the fear of, and one of the fears that I experience with the people I work with are the fear that I won't ever have someone in my life. Mm-hmm. Like the fear that I'll never have a partner, I'll be alone. Well, good news and bad news. The good news is it's okay. Mm-hmm. And the bad news is that we're going to be alone when we die. It's just, or whatever, that's a whole nother podcast. But just letting go of the fear and just trusting, like you said, that the people that are in our lives right now are meant to be, and letting go of those that don't honor us. I think that's just your bottom line.
Yeah. Yeah. And the more that we can walk in faith, because it takes a tremendous amount of faith, but the faith to let go of any job, any person, any roommate, friend, any situation that is not honoring takes tremendous amount of faith, because
and courage.
Yep. Because you're going to end up facing some fears. However, like, you keep your space clean and ready for someone else, not just a partner, but like great friends and a roommate who pays on time and is honoring, all the stuff, does the dishes. Or the workspace where you actually love the people you work with and you're not criticized and you enjoy your work. You can build things together that way too. Yeah, and you don't get that benefit. You don't get to have that without really uncompromisingly creating that space. And so here's another thing that's funny that came up for me recently, was that I realized I do everything. Like, way too many things. And part of that is just who I am. I love having my hands in everything.
Me too.
But I mean, I have 3 different businesses. I was on 2 different boards for associations. I work with my sister as a caregiver because I absolutely love spending time with her. And then I am still in Al-Anon and I'm involved there, and I do bodybuilding, and I just I do a lot. I have an Airbnb.
Well, it's variety. We like variety.
It's a lot of variety, yes. But I realized like how much I was dividing myself and really getting curious about why I was doing that. And this is kind of a pattern for me that keeps coming up, is that I create so much stuff, so much busyness and noise in my space because I don't trust myself in setting boundaries. So I may want to have the space and time to have some time to just be at home and be by myself and, I don't know, watch a movie or crochet or garden, I don't know. But it goes back to this idea of like, well, do I really deserve that? If somebody else wants to ask me to do something, then I feel obligated to do something with them. Now, I know in my mind, I know all of this, like, yes, you get the time, you deserve your time, energy, and attention first. Like, yes, it's you. But don't always trust myself to act in alignment with that. And so I realized that part of what I've done is fill my schedule so full so that I don't have to set boundaries. Because if somebody asks me to go do something and I really don't want to, The real answer is, I just don't want to. Thank you for the offer, but no. But I don't have to say that, because I can say, I'm just too busy.
Right.
So...
No is an answer, a complete answer.
Right. And I know all of this, but it's like this avoidance, this really convenient avoidance.
I've been guilty of that.
So I dropped like a ton of stuff this last week. And I am going to create some space. And it's funny, the coach I'm working with right now says, she says, I want you to be able to say, no, I'm too busy because I'm watching Netflix.
I like it. No, because I'm taking time for myself. That's awesome.
Which feels so foreign to me. But yes, that is the level I want to get to, that I can say, no, this is, I'm spending time with me. That's what I want to do. And just being able to answer, no, I don't want to. And that is like the ultimate boundary in really anything, is being able to go into this heart space and say, is this a yes? Is this a no? And if it's a no, just being able to communicate, it's just a no. There doesn't have to be a reason or a justification. No. It's just a no. Because the level of honor I have for myself is I don't do anything unless it's a hell yes. Mm-hmm. So if we can hold ourselves to that kind of honor all the time, I don't do anything unless it's a hell yes. Then we really build that self-trust.
Yeah. Even if we don't know why it's a hell yes.
Well, that's the thing, is intuition isn't supposed to make sense.
No,
it's not logic-based.
It's just honoring.
It's just honoring what your soul wants, and it's really kind of cool, because when you do that, you actually see how things unfold and ripple, and
And the freedom of that feeling too.
Right, but then you see the divine appointments that happen.
Oh yeah.
And so you realize, you didn't see what made sense in it, but the divine knew. Mm-hmm. And the divine was working through your intuition. And so when we listen to our intuition, we see it all unfold, even though we could have never known by logic that this was going to be the right path for me.
Yes.
So, following your intuition is reasonable. We just don't see it all.
Our intuition is the divine talking.
It is. Yes, that's our connection. That is truly our connection. So, anyway, I think that's ultimate self-trust, is to go inside, really pay attention to that intuition, and then be completely uncompromising in following that. I mean, that is the ultimate test. How much do you trust the divine? Because the divine is speaking to you through your intuition. So you're either trusting fear, you're either letting fear be in the driver's seat of, this is what's rational, here's why I can't do blah, blah, blah. Or, I know the divine has my back. I know I'm being led consciously, for a reason. My soul wants this relationship, wants this work, wants this friendship, wants this whatever, for a reason.
Well, going back to the busyness, what you were saying is, if we're too busy, we can't do our check-in, just like we talked about our other relationships. Our relationship with our self check-in is just as important as the check-ins in our other relationships. So that is a divine appointment.
Yeah.
Checking in with ourselves, and the divine is just as important as anything, because that's our bigger soul request.
Yeah,
our
and
bigger
creating
soul
the space to do that. Definitely. I think busyness can be, it's a drug of choice for some of us.
It is a drug. I've been there.
It's a great means of avoidance.
What a yummy, juicy conversation.
Yeah, no, this has been great. Thank you so much for...
Thank you.
Yeah, diving into trust. So I hope that you all have enjoyed this week's podcast on trust. And if you have any questions or comments or challenges that you would like to share, we would love to hear from you. We would definitely give you some airtime if you wanted to share some of your struggles that we could answer and address. That would be fabulous. If you would like to contact us, you can contact me at defytheaverage@gmail.com or Marie
at mariesgold.com.
And we will be back next week, every Thursday.
Next week. Yep.
We are here to discuss with you lots of different yummy topics on relationships. And I hope you all have a fabulous week. And we will talk to you again soon.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.